Okay, we are back. Issues should be solved, Jonas. I'm praying that there's no more issues with you, Mike, but I think we are finally good to go. It's nice to be here. Hey, it's week one. We got all the technical difficulties solved now rather than 10 weeks from now, so we should be a-okay to go forward. It seems like the noise gate, I guess, changed some of its settings, it was not pulling properly, and our technical director has fixed the issues. Shout out to Nick. He is the goat. Our tech director has gotten everything squared away for our production. We should be a-okay now.
Yeah, we do again apologize, but it's week one. Even though I still don't know why that happened. That was felt so random, but we work through it and we keep moving forward. And now we can officially get started.
Now we can officially start. Let's get to week one though. Let's take a look at the spreadsheet here. Just give me a couple of seconds. Okay, can everybody see the stream? See the spreadsheet, Jonas? I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here.
Yes, yeah.
Let's go.
There is a lot of teams.
Let's go column by column. I think that's the safest bet here for week one. I mean, anything that stands out. That's what we were talking about earlier before everything started happening with my microphone. But anything that's standing out to you in this first column or two?
I mean, I think Houston. There's a couple. I mean, literally starting from the left side. Arizona getting their revenge versus Maryland. That's a pretty big win. Houston, big win over Penn State. That really proving that they're a threat. That's a pretty fun one to see. UW, the Huskies taking down TCU was a bit of a surprise for myself as well. North Texas versus South Carolina. That was a pretty good match that the Mean Green were able to take a victory out on. I mean, second column over there. There's I mean everything kind of seeming as you would assume. Utah sweeping Miami. I think that's a pretty good victory there for Utah. Doing it in a sweep is pretty huge. Houston sweeping Old Dominion again, establishing themselves a threat. We saw that Florida Arizona series that was good. Pitt versus Air Force is a nice little battle. Washington State Cal is another nice little fight. Pitt sweeping Old Dominion is also pretty huge. Old Dominion having a tough start, but we're seeing some teams really establish themselves.
I think early winners in week one for me have to be Pittsburgh with the wins over Air Force and Old Dominion. Both those wins should track very well for the Panthers come tournament selection weekend. Washington State is a big one over California, assuming Cal goes on to do very good stuff in the ACC. And again, look at South Carolina dropping to North Texas at its rest. That's a game that really might sting the Gamecocks later. TCU dropping to Washington, I feel like that's something that shouldn't have happened. UCF losing Michigan shouldn't have happened. I think those are two games that, if the Big 12 really wants to be more deep than what we've had in years past, those are two series that's really going to reflect come selection weekends for the strength of the conference. But Houston, I mean, what a story for them. Game 5 over Penn State, and you get the nitrous crash out at the end. You can't get better than that for Houston. I mean, Cincinnati takes down Nebraska in a storied program there. Arizona gets revenge from last season's tournament. Michigan State absolutely murdered Iowa State in week one. I think it's about as good a start for the Spartans after the Ball State series make their mark 1-1. Or they're 1-1 if they lost to Drexel. But again, I mean, for me, it's early on. None of these results are necessarily, in quote, shocking. I mean, Utah's got the win over Miami. I'd say that's a little bit of a shocker, but I mean, the Utes have said that they are here to play this season, so we'll see how much damage they can do. Nothing really too concerning for me. Maybe the East Carolina, the Colorado State loss is a little concerning if you're the Pirates trying to get another opportunity to play in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll definitely kind of be on the radar. I mean, also looking closer to the top, James Madison sweeping FIU is a pretty big victory. We saw Radford, getting their time in. We saw I think another big match that I want to mention, Grand Canyon going to Game 5 with the reigning champs Akron Gold. That's pretty surprising to me. I mean, that puts a little bit more respect on Grand Canyon's name. Everyone knows that they're a solid team with a lot to prove, but going to Game 5 with Akron is no small feat.
I don't know. That was a stunning series to watch, and were we on the call together for that one? I don't remember if you
I
were
was
there.
not
Yeah, you
there.
were not there,
No.
but that was a crazy series. Went to Game 5. It was almost a reverse sweep too, by the way, for Grand Canyon. But I think for me, looking at these columns 3 through 5, I mean, one of the bigger games, Clemson is one of the biggest losers of Week One, and that just how it is. The ACC had a horrible non-conference Week One play. Clemson, one of the biggest losers. Bowling Green picks up a huge upset in Week One over Clemson, and they do bounce back with the UNM victory. But again, Jonas, that win will not track at all for the Tigers. But if you're Bowling Green, what a way to start things out, and you knock off a very good Clemson team.
Yeah, I think another one of the tough losers for this first week was Quinnipiac. They were a tournament
Absolutely.
team and they start 0-2, took a tough game 5 loss to Southern Indiana, the Screaming Eagles, and then got swept versus Northern Arizona. And I know it's technically week 2, but we did also see them drop a tough game 5 loss earlier tonight on stream versus Rutgers. Rutgers are a solid opponent, but I mean, Quinnipiac starting off their season 0-3, very, very difficult.
Yeah, very difficult indeed. I mean, Radford had a couple of great wins. I mean, then you got the Ball State victory. I mean, Akron cleaned up with Grand Canyon. Drexel took care of Michigan State. Cleveland State unfortunately dropped out of the league, so they both got wins there. But again, Bowling Green picked off Utah Valleysville. That win might track well for them. We'll have to wait and see how they do in whack play, Jonas. But in week 1, nothing really all that concerning. I think the biggest concern is Clemson losing to Bowling Green. I'm trying to prove that they are a tournament team yet again. But I mean, it's about business for a lot of these teams. They kind of proved themselves in week 1. I think things went about as I expected.
Yeah, it is pretty intriguing to see. I mean, as you mentioned, a lot of these games I think went as expected. There are a couple results that are a bit interesting. I know one of the other ones, Michigan State and Drexel. I know those are two of the top teams. Michigan State, everyone expected to kind of be fighting for that number 1 spot alongside, Akron and Mizzou, but Drexel took them down 3-1 again. They're the reigning runner-ups here in CCS, and they're proving that even with these new great teams that they're still at the best of the best.
Well, this past weekend, if you weren't watching the CCS Twitch channel, we were live with the Sideline Sports Invitational presented by the Sideline Sports Network in partnership with the Collegiate Conference Series. Jonas, you were not there, unfortunately, but I'm just hoping you'll be back for future events. But that happened over the course of this weekend. Let's take a look at the bracket. There are a couple of stunning results in this event. It's Ohio State UConn kicked things off in round 1. UConn led game 1 at under a minute and a half to go, 5-1, and they owned a goal 3 times and fell just short in overtime in game 1. Then they dropped the series in game 5 after a failed reverse sweep attempt. That was a stunning win for the Buckeyes of Ohio State. Louisiana Tech picked off FAU in a very good series. Arizona State stunned San Diego State in the first round in sweeping fashion. But what an event! What a weekend! I mean, this was a crazy tournament. All round 1 games were very exciting. ASU picked up a big win. LA Tech stuns the Sun Devils again after that. I mean, both teams, you come off a high of beating SDSU, then you drop to LA Tech. I mean, that's back and forth, and that's going to be a win that tracks very well for the Bulldogs.
Oh, 100%. I mean, this was ultimately a great event if you're a Louisiana Tech fan. I mean, getting the win against Florida Atlantic, giving a game to the Owls might be a little bit concerning. I mean, FAU obviously not what they were before, but dropping a game could be a little bit concerning, but then immediately turning around and taking down Arizona State, who's obviously at the best of the best. I believe they just fell short of the top 25 in the preseason poll, and LA Tech taking them down 3-1 is huge. And then obviously clinching first place after a game 5 win over Ohio State. That is huge. Arizona State, I mean, I think they could have they could have made it, but ultimately Louisiana Tech. I mean, that was a great match, and I am sad I missed that one. Arizona State, they still do take 3rd place. Tennessee secure 4th, but I think I would have loved to see Arizona State, Louisiana State, maybe the grands of this little tournament, but ultimately Ohio State put on a great showing as well.
That they did. I mean, I think the biggest shocker to me, this graphic also is messed up a little bit, is UConn got 4th and SDSU did get 5th, but SDSU drops to 1-2 on the year, and their non-conference schedule rounds out with Mizzou. So they're probably going to start 1-3 on the year, barring a magical upset for the Aztecs. But that's a win that could turn the season around if they pick off the Tigers with a big win in week 2. But to me, Jonas, I mean, SCSU coming in, the winner of that first round game with ASU is easily tournament projected winner. And things went very south for SCSU in this event in ASU after the win against SCSU.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I think a lot of people predicted someone from kind of that top match was going to secure it, whether it be Arizona State or San Diego State. Louisiana Tech, I think everyone knew was gonna do well. I think everyone imagined they would finish at least in the top half, in the top four. But winning the whole dang thing was a bit of a shock to me. I'm gonna be honest, but they had themselves a great couple series. They proved themselves that they can fight, and we'll see what that does for their stock moving forward.
Yeah, this was a very fun event to be able to put on, and shout out to the Sideline Sports Network team over there. Graham Smith is the GOAT. He's the owner of Sidelines. And we actually, Thomas and I are in a group chat with him as we discussed this event in the past couple weeks and months. Is we told them, hey, we're going to let you guys pick the bracket and seed it. Tell us who you want to see play who. We didn't tell them who was good and who was not. We just sent him the teams. He picked the bracket. This is what he picked, and that's what happened. I mean, again, what last night's first place game? What finished things out? Game 5, and LA Tech a huge performance in that fifth game as well, and a couple of crazy shots later. Went for the Bulldogs, and you see the fans go crazy on Twitter.
Yeah, no, we have really kind of unleashed the Louisiana Tech fan base in CCS, and it's been really fun to see all the interaction coming out from the Bulldogs. But I mean, it was a well-deserved victory. I mean, you take down a team like Arizona State in round two, and then you get a Game 5 win. I mean, you should absolutely be recognizing, and I'm excited to see where that kind of puts them. They weren't in the top 25 in the preseason poll. Don't know if they got there this time, but we'll have to see. I mean, that'll be revealed next.
That'll be revealed next soon. But again, we're still kind of discussing kind of the weekend and
Mhm.
how things went. But in LA Tech, I mean, again, no one besides us and the committee knows, that whether or not LA Tech is ranked. But do you believe going into this week that they should be ranked, or should they still be left off without knowing?
I think they gotta make it. I mean, this is a tough bracket to get through, and I mean, I think the win over Arizona State speaks the most volumes. Obviously, you get the win over FAU. Believe they were expected to win that pretty solidly. Arizona State's probably where a lot of people thought they would drop. They took it 3-1. Didn't even let it go to 5. They got it done in 4. Go to Grants versus Ohio State, which is another tough matchup. You really don't know how that one could go. Of course, the Buckeyes coming off a sweep over Tennessee. They had a lot of momentum. They easily could have taken that series, but the Bulldogs held it down, and I think they deserve to make it.
I think so too. We'll have to see where the committee had them in terms of top 25 poll for the week. But again, what a weekend for the LA Tech fans. I mean, I know their silence count really helped boost engagement. We saw the university president get involved and engage with things, and even followed us too. So shout out to him and Dr. Henderson at LA Tech. I mean, that was cool to see. And then superstar ex running back at LA Tech, Boston Scott, even got engaged with the post today. So that was pretty cool to see. And their athletics account also got involved, made a tweet themselves, and gave a shout out to the Rocket League team. So that was pretty cool to see as well.
Yeah, it was indeed. I mean, again, the Louisiana Tech fan base, we knew they had some fans nation, but as I mentioned, we've really seen them just be unleashed after this victory, and seeing all the engagement has been amazing, and I think it just makes us want to do more events like this in the future.
Well, we've still got one more to go next weekend too,
Hmm.
before we kind of focus back on league play. But while we're just kind of sitting here, I mean, again, this is our first show of the season, so we haven't really gotten to talk much about what's been going on behind the scenes. But again, I'm going to show the map one last time. 186 teams this season. Dronas did, or 100 and yeah, 85 teams this spring. So it's pretty cool to see. I mean, again, on a map, you can see all the programs competing this spring. But my goodness, I mean, it looks so good to me. It took forever to put this together.
Yeah, I know how much work you do on this map, but it always looks so amazing when it fully comes together. I mean, you can just see the sheer volume of teams participating here in CCS, and it really is incredible to see kind of everything that shakes out, and to see not only like how many teams are in this league, but across the sheer country that it spans. Being able to see, some of these best West teams competing against some of the best in the East, North and South you have competing. I mean, it really is fun to see. And when once we get further down the road into the actual season 5 tournament, we're going to see even more of these teams clash, and it's just incredible.
It really is. I mean, it's okay. We got this map kind of done a little bit last minute, but it just took a minute because we had all the schedule release stuff to take care of, and then I walked back into the map and got that taken care of. It was a crazy little week before things really got underway here at CCS for season 5. But just I think without we've done enough stalling. Shall we go ahead and reveal the rankings?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, here are your CCS Season 5 Week 1 Top 25 rankings after the opening week. Kick things off, Akron opens back up at number 1. Drexel and Mizzou both jump Michigan State. You'll see Akron Drexel 1 versus 2 tomorrow night at 8 Eastern, live right here.
And that's going to be a very highly anticipated matchup. Of course, I mean, seeing these two teams go to battle once again, the rematch of the championship last season is going to be huge. And Drexel, I think, well deserving of that number 2 spot. We talked a little bit about their 3-1 win over Michigan State. I think definitely really propelled them even higher. Mizzou kind of really even solidifying that number 3 spot, getting some big wins over Ball State and Radford. I think they could have potentially moved up, but Drexel taking down Michigan State was a pretty huge victory. We also see Florida move up a couple spots into the top 5. We saw obviously Cleveland State, who were number 5, in the preseason poll. They are officially dropped, so they are gone. That opens up some more space higher up. Charlotte dropped 1. We see, so some more movement up top.
Absolutely, and I think Arizona. I think they kind of have been getting even Arizona State, in my eyes, have been getting a little bit of hate from the committee. I'll say I don't know if hate's the right word to use, but a little bit of a disrespect. I don't think a couple of the voters are really aware of what Arizona's capable of. And I think some are, some aren't. But for me and you, George, I know we have talked very highly of Arizona and Arizona State in the past. And I think they're both going to do damage in the Big 12 alongside Zell, the newcomer for Cincinnati. But there's a couple teams on this list that are, again, they've got a lot to prove, being as high as they are on the polls. And I know Akron Drexel play on tomorrow night, so those two teams will probably get adjusted. The loser probably going to fall to 3, heck, maybe 4. I don't know what the committee's going to think. It'll depend on how the series goes. And you saw last night, Arizona almost stunned Florida. LA Tech is ranked, and I think the biggest stunner for some people. I mean, San Diego State has gone off the chart the first time ever since entering the league back in season 2.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty crazy to think that. I mean, that was a team that was so dominant for so long, and now we just no longer see them. But I mean, it's just kind of how things shaked out. Unfortunately, they just didn't have the strongest look to open things up, and they are. They're paying the price. I mean, this is kind of how everything deals. I mean, they had a tough invitational with sideline. I mean, getting swept by Arizona State, and then having a getting swept by UConn as well back to back is two tough losses that I don't think SDSU maybe should have faced, but they happen regardless, and that's reflected very clearly in the rankings.
That it has. I mean, again, George Mason took a little bit of a tumble. Grand Canyon, despite the loss to Akron, also saw a little bit of a bump on the rankings, and Houston jumps from unranked to 19. I think that's a very good jump for the Cougars. I think they should have been ranked off the rip, but they weren't because the committee didn't give them enough respect in my eyes. But here they are at 19, and we had a top 15 battle earlier in the night. Ball State swept number 9 UT Arlington, so the Cardinals will jump up a little bit more, I'd assume, and I think it's gonna be. This is a week where a lot of really, really good teams play each other. So there's gonna be a lot of shuffle in next week's episode.
Yeah, I think once we finish up this week and we, next Monday when we see the week 2 rankings, I think everything's going to look even more different. I mean, that's what's always interesting about these first couple of weeks with these rankings. You're kind of getting everything shaken up. Obviously, we had the preseason poll. You never really know what's going to happen. Week 1, you start to see it fill out a little bit. Week 2, even more so with even tougher competition, and then that's when teams, settle into their groups, and sometimes upsets happen. Things can shift a lot, but usually that's where kind of everyone settles into place. But these first 2 weeks of non-con really provide a lot of depth and a lot of vision to what is brought to the table, especially because last season we only had the 1 week of non-conference. Now with 2, there's even more shifting and switching that's going to happen.
Absolutely. I think, for a couple of us, I think we just kind of like to see a couple more of these teams play some more quality games and really kind of get a feel of what we're gonna expect to see through the course of league play. But there's a couple of teams I'm still. I mean, I guess I don't know, but I'm not necessarily not sold on them. But I'd like to see more of a performance in terms of where we're ranking these teams. But again, it's still a long season ahead of us. 5 weeks still left the conference play. We still have a whole non-conference week ahead of us too, Jonas. So I'm not going to go into much detail on that. But there's some teams on here that really I'd like to see play a more formidable opponent than what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting teams I'm looking forward to seeing more of is actually San Jose State, currently ranked at 23. They were 22 in the preseason poll. They dropped one spot, but this upcoming week they take on Arizona and Wichita State, so number 11 and 13. So they could possibly get knocked out, or they could possibly move up even further.
I mean, it's gonna be a tough week for Purdue. I mean, they've got some difficult games. I know Florida plays a difficult schedule as well. Arizona claims they've got the hardest schedule in the country. And I showed them Utah's schedule and told them that Utah's got the hardest schedule in the country. They're not ranked, but they had a decent week one. They have a solid start to week two right now. I mean, again, there's too many games still ahead of us to really kind of decide who should go where. So I don't think there's any point of complaining about why is this team not ahead of this team or whatever. But this ranking is still really solid in my opinion.
And I think it'll again, even after this next week, it'll be even more interesting to see. I mean, there's going to be a lot of stiff competition. Another team that's going to be really tested, George Mason. They face some tough opponents. They take on FIU and Radford, so they're definitely gonna be put to work as well. And we'll see how they're able to deal. I mean, there's a lot of top 25 matches in coming up, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this kind of again how everything falls through, and I'm going to be really intrigued. And there's a lot of good matches you want to keep your eye on.
Absolutely. I think, watching Houston plays can be really exciting too. And LA Tech at 25 plays Old Dominion this week. That's a big kind of prove it game for the Bulldogs to keep their ranking going into next week. And Houston, again, I'm sold on them. And I've always been sold on them. I think they're going to do just fine in Big 12 play. I think for them, honestly, it's Big 12 title game or bust.
I mean, we could definitely see that. That's definitely a possibility at this point. I mean, well, they got a lot of stiff competition. Obviously, both the Arizona schools, the Wildcats and the Sun Devils. You got Cincinnati, you got Iowa State. It's those are tough hurdles to climb, nation.
That it is. Again, I mean, you got to trust the process if you're a team like Houston. They beat Iowa State last season. They were neck and neck with Colorado. I mean, they played difficult schedules. They play Miami and UTSA this week, so two unranked opponents again for the Cougars. But still, UTSA's got Turo now. That's going to be a fun match. So maybe we can catch it on stream this week. We'll have to kind of see when it is going to get played. But for me, it's week two. There's no point in nitpicking this ranking and say, okay, well, why is Team A so high or why is Team B so low? There's no point in doing that right now.
Yeah, I mean another team that I'm on the lookout for, and you could kind of you saw them at the very bottom of the graphic under receiving votes. They came in at 26, the Northeastern. That's a team that I'm looking out for. I think the committee knows that I'm a Northeastern fan and I believe in these guys, but this is the week where they're going to be really tested. I mean, they have Maryland and Michigan State on their schedule for this upcoming week. They are really gonna be tried in this one. So we'll see. I did put them in my top 25. I will say it. We'll see if they're going to be able to make it. They really have to prove themselves. If not, they could drop off.
They could, but again, it's early and just again for everyone out there, the top 25 poll has absolutely zero effect on if you're going to get in a tournament or not. It has zero effect on selection process. It's not used during the process of our selection. So if you're not on the ranking, don't panic. It doesn't really affect you all that much. There were teams that were ranked last season that missed a tournament. So don't just say, okay, I'm ranked, I'm safe now. That's not how that works. So we'll have to wait and see what happens though in April. It's still a long way ahead of us here, Jonas.
Oh yeah, I mean there's still lots of Rocket League to be played. Lots of things to come. I mean, obviously this next week is going to be it's going to get crazy. I mean, just the amount of incredible teams going head to head will really be incredible to see. And then obviously kind of seeing all these teams settle into their conferences. The Big 12 is always got to look out for. Obviously, the Big Ten is another one that could get a little interesting. I'm assuming Michigan State will probably run it over there. We'll see what happens with the SEC. Who comes second? Because Mizzou's probably going to lead over
Probably
there. But
Florida.
Yeah, I would imagine it would go Mizzou, Florida over in the SEC, but obviously the American's going to be interesting as well. North Texas, East Carolina have been stepping up, but and obviously Wichita State over there, UTSA also got to give them a shout. Who knows what could happen? I mean, it'll be interesting to see how things develop.
Yeah, I think in the American, North Texas is a team that we need to see breakthrough. That just simply put, because in my eyes, and I think in a lot of people's eyes, it's Wichita State and Charlotte at the top until North Texas proves us otherwise. And I think if North Texas can pull off one of those two big wins, and maybe they're in the conversation to win it. But again, I think at this point the American is at least a three-bid league, maybe a four if East Carolina can keep things rolling. If you just missed earlier, they picked off a win against Tennessee, so that's a very good start for the Pirates. They're 2-1. They have NC State still ahead of them. But again, will any of those win track? I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Because again, they haven't beaten anybody that is projected to get in.
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting thing to always see how these things kind of fall through. I mean, I do think I would have to say it's four. I would have to say it's four. I could see UNT easily making it. Charlotte, obviously, Wichita State. I could see UTSA sneaking in. East Carolina sneaking in. There's time. There's time for these things to kind of all happen, and we'll have to just patiently wait and see. Ultimately, there's not much more we can do. We let the teams play. We see the results. We study what happens. But that being said, I mean, the CCS championship moving forward is going to be absolutely crazy. We're going to see some potential more upsets. We got a couple last season, Nation. Do you think we're going to see more?
I definitely. I think we definitely will see more. But you go to talk about the American being four. I mean, I know it's Wichita State, Charlotte, North Texas, but is your fourth bid East Carolina or is it UTSA?
That's the question. I could not tell you as of right now, but that I'm curious to see. I think this upcoming week will be pretty telling. Honestly, as of right now, yeah, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I'm pretty sure UTSA they went 1-1, right? They got a win over Air Force, I believe, a Game 5 victory, and then I think they fell to Maryland. But if they face off against Houston in this upcoming week, and
That's
that's
a big
obviously a
game.
really solid ranked opponent. That's an opponent that you believe in, Nation and UTSA. They're gonna have to fight for that victory, and we'll see if they got what it takes.
Absolutely. I'm going to call you on this too because we talked about this last night. Just
Mm.
for those of you that know, our stream is supposed to begin at 8 p.m. Eastern night with App State and NC State. That game canceled. But before that, there was a 7:15 Eastern game with Syracuse and West Virginia. I told Jonas to go live at 7:15 or else we riot last night. And he said no, West Virginia is going to get killed in that game. Brutality strikes and the Mountaineers knock off the Orange of Syracuse in Game 5 earlier this afternoon. And Jonas told me that it was not going to be close, and the Mountaineers win it in 5 straight games. And Jonas, you should have gone live. That would have been content.
You know what? I'll take it on the chin. That would have been a fun. I really didn't think that's what was gonna happen. But I gotta give it to them. The West Virginia, the Mountaineers, they got the job done. I thought it was gonna be Syracuse all day long, but the Orange just they could not hang. And I mean that's a big win for West Virginia.
That is a big win for West Virginia. But I mean, again, week 2, there's still a lot of high level games. Earlier tonight, Ohio State picked off Texas Tech after a 2-0 start for the Red Raiders. They were swept. Purdue, Arizona State's a big game this week. Jonas, I mean, that's a really game we're going to look forward to watching, hopefully, together on stream. Southern Indiana, UMBC could be interesting. I mean, again, both these UC games will be fun. Miami UCF could get crazy if John and them are still trolling, if they still can get things figured to get put together. North Texas beat Washington State earlier on your stream. Let's see, anything else kind of really interesting here is scrolling through the match list. But I mean, anything to you, Jonas?
I mean, mentioned a couple of those top 25 matches that I'm interested in seeing. Obviously, we have Drexel Akron is going to be fun to see. I'm excited to see the Arizona games as well. I mean, they take on San Jose State, which will be an interesting match for the Spartans. I think the Wildcats probably should get that victory, but then also Arizona they take on the number 2 ranked Drexel. That's not going to be an easy match whatsoever, but we say it all the time. You want to compete with, you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. So we'll see if the Wildcats are able to compete with Drexel.
I'm excited for that game. I think Arizona probably honestly doesn't have a chance, but they might be able to get one game and maybe kind of put something together for two games and things get interesting after that. Maybe I don't really know. I mean, Akron Drexel after week one. I mean, I know Drexel's probably going to win at this point. They beat Akron in the regular season last time. Akron had a scare with Grand Canyon in week one. Are they ready to go? Are they ready to ball Drexel tomorrow? We're going to have to wait and see and find out. But those are big games. FIU gets a crack at Akron and George Mason. Drexel has to play Arizona too. That is that a trap game for Drexel?
It might be. I think they should be able to deal, but I think they would be wise to keep their guard up.
If they beat Akron tomorrow, they might go into that game like I think it's gonna be easy. That could be a trap game.
It definitely could be. I mean, beating Akron's a whole nother beast, but it'll definitely be kind of interesting to see. Honestly, I think after last season, I'm an Arizona fan. You guys know I'm from the West Coast. All these West Coast teams, when one of them's a standout team, they're always fun to watch. And I'm excited to see what Arizona can do. They were kind of that dark horse last season, kind of came out of nowhere and really surprised us. If they're able to take down a team like Drexel, I mean, hats off. As you mentioned, it might already be out of their hands. It might already be a lost cause, but I want to see how well they fight.
I'd love to see that too. I think for me, Pitt versus Penn State could be good. Even Penn State Middle
Mm.
Tennessee State could be interesting. It's again that new MTSU roster's very highly ranked. They could be fun to watch. I mean, do we over under 1.5 nitrous crash outs in week two?
Um, I
He's
that
already got one on the season. What's one more?
that's great. I think that definitely could go over. We'll we'll have to see.
Well, he's got one crash out already this season. He had two crash outs last season. We'll see if he adds to that tally as the season goes on. But right now he sits at one crash out. We'll give it that was like a 4 out of 10 crash out. But hey, we mark it as a crash out. Now this Florida Purdue game, if Akron Drexel wasn't a game, this is the game of the week. Florida Purdue
Mm.
would be a great game, but this stretch right here, all really good games. I mean, GMU, FIU, Akron, Akron Drexel, Drexel, Arizona, SJSU. Those are all fun games. I mean, over here too, there's a couple of other interesting games. But what a start to the season though. And SCSU Missouri, another top game.
Yeah, I think unfortunately for the Aztecs, that might be rough. Um, I
Yeah, I
I
think more
don't
than rough.
I yeah, I don't see the Tigers giving them a lot of chances in that one. I mean, we've seen Mizzou already take down some of the best teams. San Diego State, that's gonna be a rough one for you. But I think let me ask you this, Nation. Out of all the week 2 games we got, do you have a pick for like a big upset? Do you have any sort of upset pick in this one?
Are we marking it as like unranked over a ranked team is considered an
No, no,
upset, or
just
like
just
just in
just
general?
anything. Just in general. A team who you would look at it and you'd be like, okay, they'll probably lose. But what
Okay,
what team do
well,
you think is able to
we've
take
we've had a
gonna
lot
be has the potential?
we've had a lot of talk about this team, and for me, they've had a couple of close calls, but they've never been in the postseason before. This is the week to prove they're not a fraud. Utah's gonna beat Maryland.
I was I was thinking that exact same thing. That I literally I got it right here. I think it's gonna happen too. I want to see the Utes do it. We know the Terps are a great team. We know Maryland is a competitor, but Utah they've been having some highs recently, and I do think they can get that victory.
Mystic Maryland is Hexy, Waiters, and Turtle. Again, Utah last season they were a little upset with not getting in. They thought they deserved to be in, but they were a little bit far off. They're trying this. I feel like this season is a decent chance considering they've got one of the most difficult schedules in the country. They've got plenty of opportunities to prove themselves. This is a big one here. Again, you've got Clemson that should be a win, and Maryland to cap things off, and that game's tomorrow. So we're gonna catch that on stream together with Jonas and I on the call, hopefully for that one. But I mean, Jonas going in. I mean, you said that was a game that you wanted to see happen as an upset. I think it's possible, but it's going to take a lot of Utah to prove themselves that whatever the heck happened this weekend with Rutgers was not a fraud, and that unfortunately it's going to be a little bit easier said than done. They dropped it 5 to the Scarlet Knights after a 2-1 lead, and things went south after that.
Yeah, I mean, Maryland's no slouch. I mean, we say that Utah, they have the potential for that upset. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. Maryland, they're still a solid competitor. I would very much expect them to get back to the tournament unless a lot of things start to go wrong for them. I'd still expect the Terps to be a very very strong competitor this season. Utah, they have their work cut out for them. We'll have to see. Um, well, yeah, it really. I want to see Utah get in personally. We've, as you mentioned, we've talked about this team for seasons and seasons. I do want to see them make it into the tournament. I do want to see them get a crazy upset, but it's not in my hands.
Now, is Utah a team you don't want to see as your opponent in April?
I think people underestimate Utah. I think that's one of their greatest advantages. I think people look at Utah and they think they have a win. I think they're one of the biggest trap teams in this entire league. And I, honestly, if teams are listening, if teams make it to the championship and they're listening, and you face Utah, you want to be prepared. You cannot go at that team like they're going to be light work. You have to be prepared to fight a little bit. The Utes, they're scrappy. They're going to put up a fight. They're going to try and take down some of the best. So I think a lot of teams should be a little bit worried, but I honestly wouldn't expect a ton to be on first glance.
Yeah, I mean, again, outs for the committee, I think the biggest problem with Utah is that they've never, outside season two, they never won a conference playoff game. And they back in season two,
Yeah.
they got the third place game after a round one win over TCU. That was the only time TCU actually has ever been in the Big 12 playoff. But since then, Utah has never made it past the first round. They've struggled in postseason play, Dronas, and I think if they want to have a chance at playing in April, they have to be able to find a way to win at least the first round and prove themselves through the group play stage and maybe even play a heck of a series in the semifinals. I don't know if this is an upset call or not, but NJIT is 2-0. They beat Stephen F. Austin and Villanova. Now they head into a game against Quinnipiac, who is 0-3 on the year so far. Now, I gotta say, give me the Highlanders over the Bobcats at 5 to stun Quinnipiac in week 2. I think Quinnipiac opens non-con is 0-4 going into league play.
I could see that definitely being possible. I will give a little bit of credit to the Bobcats. I think they can get that victory. I would still pick them over NJIT. As long as they keep their mental up. And I know that's not an easy thing to do. It's way easier said than done. Of course, going 0-3 is really, really tough. But I do believe that they can get that victory. I still think they're a solid competitor. They have had some tough opponents, some rough losses, but it's all up to them to bounce back. This is going to be their one last opportunity in non-con. Think they should do just fine in actual conference play during the group stage, but as of right now, this is kind of their last chance to show the committee as the season goes on that they are a viable competitor.
Yeah, I don't remember what seed Quinnipiac was
I
last
believe they.
season. They were like a 12 or right or like 12, 13 range, weren't they?
I think you're right.
Let's see.
Prost was 11. He faced them round one, so he's got it off the dome. They were an 11 seed.
Quinnipiac was an 11. So after this start, I feel like there's no way you can put Quinnipiac at 11 again after this, especially if they
Oh
drop the
no.
NJIT. I think the Bobcats are looking at like a 13 or a 14 seed right now if they go unbeaten the rest of the way. But again, as we close week 2, UConn plays NAU. NAU is a team that kind of overlooks teams they're not really all that familiar with. That's a trap game. Give me the Huskies after what happened this weekend.
Yeah, I think I gotta go. I think I gotta go with you there.
That's gonna be a great game though too. I think they're playing like Friday night or something. It's a late game or something for NAU, but
Mhm.
I think that could be a fun game. Clemson and Rutgers could be interesting. I know Rutgers just stunned Quinnipiac on your stream, on our stream earlier in Game 5.
Mhm.
That was fun to watch on my way home from class because I have class till 10:30 Eastern every single freaking Monday, so I have to miss Monday broadcasts unfortunately. But that's enough talking about week 2. Let's take a look at what's happening this weekend. On Saturday, we'll play the first 2 rounds of this. The CCS Invitational. As long as I can find the bracket here. There's so many sources on my screen, I can't find it. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, I'm skipping over it. I'm trolling. Oh, I'm trolling even more. Hold on. There we go. All right. California plays Charlotte. South Carolina Grand Canyon. Those 2 games will kick off at 8 p.m. Eastern. Our main channel will take California versus Charlotte at 7. Then Nebraska plays Iowa State. Idaho State versus James Madison will kick off at 7 Eastern. So Cal Charlotte at 8. Nebraska will play Iowa State at 7 on our main broadcast. That'll be your schedule for Saturday. Then we'll get the loser simulation semifinal of the upper side at 9, and the loser in the winner semifinal on the bottom side at 10.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Spade right off the bat. Those are the two teams that I was looking to make it all the way. I mean, obviously there's some of the best teams from some of the best conferences in this invitational, but I do have to think that it's going to be Charlotte versus James Madison in the Grands fighting for first place. I could see Charlotte getting through Cal. I could see them getting through USC or Grand Canyon. It might be a little bit dicey there. Still think they can get the win just fine. On the other side, James Madison, Idaho State. I think they're a little bit of a trap team as well. You know I love EJ out here in Nation. I think they're going to compete. I still think James Madison will do fine. Iowa State should make quick work of Nebraska. We all love the Cornhuskers, but Iowa State are kind of a different animal. And then James Madison, Ohio, Iowa State going head to head. That'll be a really good matchup, I have to believe. But I still think the Dukes will come out up front, and then we'll see them take on Charlotte.
Now, again, they did just bench Crazy for Cloudy today. For those of you who
Okay.
just found that out, Iowa State now can be Vanished, Midas, and Cloudy for the Cyclones. I think they go on to get to the final of this thing, and they're going to play Grand Canyon to win it, I think.
Okay,
I think
I could see that as well.
it's going to be Charlotte GCU on the upper side, and Iowa State and James Madison at the bottom. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be an exciting event. I'm excited. We'll see the first round and second round on Saturday. Then your first, third, and fifth, seventh place games will all be scheduled games during week 3 because we can't play it on Sunday because Sunday is the Super Bowl, so we can't do that. So we're gonna play it during week 3, but it's an interesting bracket. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to watching those teams play and pick up some more quality wins on the resume.
Yeah, no, I think this is definitely another one of these invitationals that, as you mentioned, it's an opportunity to get good wins over good teams. You know, you're put in a bracket with some of these teams. You know, if you're one of the kind of the lower teams in this bracket, you're talking about Cal, talking about Nebraska, talking about South Carolina, talking about Idaho State. These are where you can get some major upsets, or at least compete with some of these, top 25 teams, these top 10 teams, even in CCS. This is where you compete, show the committee that you can fight with the best, get a little bit higher seating, maybe even get a big upset victory in this invitational. Put that down on your resume, and that'll be kept, on the record for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's countless opportunities ahead for all 8 of the teams in the field. So if things go south this weekend, there's no need to fret. But again, you want to get these wins where you can because your tournament seeding is going to go up very high if you play well this weekend. So we'll see how things go. But Jonas, we're getting to that time where we're at the end of the show, and we're both on time constraints right now due to some academic stuff. So we got to get that taken care of. But this was episode 1 of the After Dark conference call CCS Weekly Podcast. So Nation, Dronas. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 7 Eastern as Akron takes on Drexel to kick things off.